Chosen one, hear me tonight in the Spirit. Heaven is not silent. The atmosphere around you is not ordinary. I hear the sound of a trumpet in the distance, a divine blast that shakes the corridors of eternity. It is the King of Kings summoning you into his chamber, and the urgency in his voice thunders across the heavens. This is not a general announcement for the crowd. This is a name-specific call. Your name has been spoken in the council room of God. The same God who called Samuel in the night, the same God who spoke to Moses from the burning bush, now leans forward with eyes fixed on you. Heaven's calendar has marked this moment in red, and the summons is not negotiable. There is a holy weight in the air because what God is about to say cannot wait for the light of another day. Some words can be stored for later, but this one is for now. The Spirit of the Lord is pressing this into your soul because the timing is bound to a window that is about to open and just as quickly close. This is the moment where obedience meets destiny. I sense in my spirit that this call is a collision between heaven's plan and the devil's schemes. The enemy has prepared something to derail you, but God has prepared something to deliver you. This is why the King is summoning you with such urgency. His voice carries both an invitation and a warning, one to lift you into purpose and one to pull you out of danger. When God calls with urgency, it is because the answer will determine more than you realize. The sound of his voice is not merely information, it is divine intervention. He is not speaking to make conversation, he is speaking to create transformation. Every word he will release tonight carries the power to alter the course of your life before the sun rises again. I hear the Spirit saying, before tomorrow comes, I must speak to my chosen. Before the enemy makes his move, I will position you for victory. Before the new day breaks, I will release what you will need to stand in the day ahead. This is the heartbeat of God pounding at your spirit's door. Can you feel it? This is the same urgency that pulled Lot out of Sodom before the fire fell. It is the same urgency that told Joseph to take Mary and the child and flee before Herod struck. It is the same urgency that called the disciples to drop their nets immediately when Jesus passed by. There was no room for delay then, and there is no room for delay now. The urgency of heaven tonight is like a river breaking through a dam. It cannot and will not be held back. God's voice is rushing toward you, unstoppable, unshakable, undeniable. It is coming to flood your heart with direction, clarity, and divine warning. And this flood must be received now, for by tomorrow the waters will have moved to the next place. Chosen one, the hourglass of this divine moment is already running. You are standing in the seconds before heaven opens its mouth to speak. Angels are leaning in, the Spirit is stirring, and the throne room is ready. God's eyes are locked on yours, and his voice is already rising on the wind. Tonight is not like any other night you have lived. When God issues an urgent call, it is because something in the Spirit has shifted. There are moments when the Lord speaks in the rhythm of everyday life, but there are also moments when his voice breaks into time like lightning. This is not the gentle drip of a distant rain. It is the sudden roar of a storm overhead. Heaven is not calling you to convenience. It is calling you to immediate response. God does not waste urgency. Every sudden instruction from him is loaded with purpose. When he spoke to Noah to build the ark, it was not a casual suggestion. It was the difference between life and death. When he called Abraham to leave his country without delay, it was because destiny was moving and the timing could not be missed. The same God is now pressing upon your spirit with a divine now. This urgent call is proof that your life is part of a bigger plan unfolding right now. Heaven's movements are precise, and when the Lord summons you, suddenly it means your part must be played in the exact moment it is needed. Like a soldier being called to the front lines at the exact hour of battle, you are being positioned for something that requires your presence, your obedience, and your faith. Sometimes God's urgent call comes without all the details. He does not always explain the why before he commands the go. He called Philip in the book of Acts to leave the revival in Samaria and run to a desert road. And there, one Ethiopian's salvation became a doorway for the gospel to reach a nation. God's timing does not need your full understanding, but it does demand your full obedience. This urgency is not just for you, it is connected to others. Your obedience tonight might be the lifeline for someone else tomorrow. Just as Esther was called for such a time as this to save her people, you are being stirred at a critical hour because your response will open doors, break chains, and set divine events into motion. Heaven's call always ripples outward beyond the one who hears it. The Spirit's urgency also reveals that the enemy is already moving. When Herod sought to kill the child Jesus, the angel of the Lord warned Joseph in a dream that very night. He had to take action before the sun rose because the threat was already on its way. God's urgent call is often your early warning system, a shield before the arrow is even shot. When you sense that holy urgency, it is because the moment is rare and unrepeatable. You cannot drag your feet in the presence of such a summons. Like the 10 virgins who prepared their lamps, the wise respond before the midnight cry, not after. The foolish waited until the door was shut. God is calling you before tomorrow because there is a door that will not remain open forever. This kind of call carries a weight that silences other voices. When heaven speaks with urgency, every lesser priority bows. You feel it in your spirit, a pull so strong that nothing else matters until you answer. This is the language of the King when time is short and the mission is great. And tonight that King has spoken your name in that very tone. Every urgent call of God is also an invitation to step into a divine schedule. Heaven runs on its own clock, and when it calls you suddenly, it is aligning your steps with eternal timing. You are not being interrupted. You are being inserted into a supernatural moment where God's purpose and your obedience meet in perfect sync. And right now, that moment is unfolding before you. When God says he must speak before tomorrow, it means there is revelation prepared for this exact night, not next week, not next month, now. There are things in the Spirit that cannot be revealed in daylight because they are meant for the secret place in the night hour. The Lord often whispers his greatest secrets when the world is quiet, when distractions fade, and when your spirit is most alert to his voice. One thing he wants to reveal is a hidden blessing already set in motion for you. Many times God prepares breakthroughs in advance, but they require a prophetic instruction before they can manifest. Just as Elijah told the widow to bake bread before the jar of oil overflowed, the Lord may be giving you a specific step tonight that will unlock what he has already prepared. Without this revelation, the blessing remains hidden in plain sight. There is also the unveiling of a warning. God does not only speak to bless, he speaks to protect. Before Pharaoh's dream came to pass, God revealed it to Joseph so that Egypt could prepare for famine. Before the storm struck, Jesus warned his disciples to watch and pray. The urgency in his voice tonight may be because something is forming in the shadows, and your awareness now will prevent disaster later. The Spirit also desires to reveal your next assignment. Heaven's plan for your life is not static. It moves in seasons. There comes a time when yesterday's instructions are complete and the next chapter must begin. Before tomorrow, God may be placing a fresh mantle upon you, a new territory to take, a new task to accomplish. This is why he must speak tonight, because the new day requires a new directive. Sometimes what God wants to reveal is not about events, but about identity. There are moments when he pulls back the veil to show you who you truly are in his eyes. Gideon thought he was the weakest in his family until the angel of the Lord called him a mighty warrior. Before tomorrow, the Lord may be speaking words over you that destroy the lies you have believed and awaken the champion he has always seen. God also desires to reveal strategies. You may have been praying for an answer for months, but the clarity you need is coming now. Strategies are heaven's battle plans, divinely tailored solutions that unlock impossible situations. Just as God gave Joshua the exact steps to bring down Jericho's walls, he may be giving you a detailed plan tonight that will bring the victory you've been waiting for. Another revelation he may place in your spirit is about timing. Many blessings are lost, not because the opportunity never came, but because it was missed. Tonight, God may be aligning you with an exact moment, showing you when to move, when to speak, and when to act. Timing in the Spirit is not guesswork, it is revelation from heaven itself. And sometimes before tomorrow, the Lord reveals the enemy's plan so you can walk in wisdom. When the prophet Elisha warned the king of Israel about the ambushes of the Syrians, the enemy's plans failed every time. Tonight's word from God could be the intelligence you need to outmaneuver every attack set against you. This urgency is because such revelations cannot be stored for later. They are like manna, fresh for the day and gone the next. Heaven has scheduled this night as the delivery time for what you need. Before tomorrow comes, the Lord desires to put into your hands the insight, the direction, and the assurance that will anchor you for the days ahead. Delay is not just hesitation, it is disobedience in disguise. Many believe they are simply waiting for the right time. But in heaven's calendar, the right time is always God's time, not ours. When God says now and we answer later, we create a gap where the enemy can enter. That gap can cost opportunities, blessings, and even destinies that will never return in the same way again. The scriptures are filled with those who suffered because they delayed. When the angel told Lot to leave Sodom, he lingered, and the angels had to drag him out before the fire fell. If he had delayed longer, his life and the lives of his daughters would have been lost. Delay is dangerous because the spiritual clock does not stop ticking just because we are undecided. When God calls, the timing is not random, it is precise. He has already seen the movements of both heaven and hell in your situation, and his command is perfectly timed to intercept the enemy's schemes. If you delay, you step out of the protection of that perfect timing, exposing yourself to battles you were never meant to fight. A delayed yes is not just slow obedience. It's an open door to unnecessary warfare. Delay also causes spiritual deafness. The more you ignore or postpone a word from God, the softer his voice seems to become to your ears. Pharaoh hardened his heart each time he refused Moses' words, and over time he could no longer even perceive God's warnings. The danger is not just in missing one instruction, it's in training your heart to resist the Spirit's urgency. Another danger of delay is that the opportunity may pass to someone else. When Saul hesitated to obey God's command, the kingship was taken from him and given to David. Heaven's mission will always be completed, but if one vessel will not respond in time, God will raise up another. The tragedy is that the reward and the testimony that could have been yours may be placed in another's hands. Delay invites the enemy to fill the space you should have occupied. When the Israelites hesitated to enter the promised land, they gave room for fear to grow and for giants to appear larger in their own eyes. By the time they tried to move later, the moment of favor had passed and they were defeated. Some victories are tied to the momentum of obedience. Once that momentum is lost, the battle becomes far harder. The Spirit's call tonight is like a lifeboat sent to a sinking ship. If you refuse to get in when it arrives, the waters will not wait for you. God's urgent word is your lifeline, but it must be seized in the moment it is given. Delay is dangerous because you cannot control the conditions once the moment has passed. What was a calm rescue can become an impossible storm. The enemy's strategy thrives on delay. He knows that if he cannot stop you outright, he can slow you until the window of impact closes. He whispers, "You can do it tomorrow. You can answer later," until tomorrow becomes never. What God is pressing on your spirit now is not just about obedience. It is about shutting the door in the enemy's face before he even takes one step inside. Delay is the enemy of destiny because destiny is time sensitive. Every divine instruction carries within it a best before moment where the anointing and the opportunity meet in perfect harmony. When you delay, that harmony is broken and the fullness of what God intended is lost. And tonight, the Spirit is warning you, do not let hesitation rob you of what heaven has prepared. When God is speaking with urgency, you cannot afford to let the noise of the world drown him out. His voice is not lost, it is always clear, but often it is our ears that are crowded. If you want to hear the King when he calls, you must silence every competing sound. The Spirit speaks to those who will make room for him, and tonight that room must be cleared in your heart and in your mind. The first step is to remove distractions. Turn off what steals your focus, whether it is a device, a conversation, or even the whirlwind of your own thoughts. When Jesus went to pray, he would often go alone, leaving the crowds behind. Some instructions from God are so specific that they can only be heard in the quiet, where no other voices compete for your attention. The next key is to open the scriptures. The Word of God is not just a book, it is the tuning fork for your spirit. When you read it, your heart aligns with His frequency, making it easier to recognize His voice. The Spirit will often take a verse you have read 100 times and breathe fresh meaning into it for the exact moment you are living in right now. Prayer is your lifeline in this moment, not just prayer that talks, but prayer that listens. Too many rush into prayer with a list and leave before God has spoken. In an urgent hour, you must linger, allowing the Spirit to pour into you what you cannot hear in haste. The greatest revelations often come in the still moments after you have finished speaking and simply wait in His presence. Another way to position yourself is through worship. Worship is not just singing, it is surrender. When you worship, your spirit is lifted above the noise of fear, anxiety, and doubt. David often heard from God after he worshiped, because worship aligns your heart with heaven and creates a clear channel for the voice of the Lord to flow without interference. Write down what you hear. The Spirit's words are not to be treated casually. When Habakkuk received the vision, God told him to write it down so it could run its course. A written word becomes a preserved word, and it allows you to return to it when doubt or confusion tries to erase what God has spoken. Many have missed their moment simply because they forgot what was given to them in the secret place. You must also be ready to obey instantly. Hearing clearly is not just about receiving information, it is about preparing to act on it. God speaks most clearly to those whose hearts are already saying yes before they even know the details. A willing spirit sharpens spiritual hearing because heaven knows your answer will not be delayed. Fasting is another powerful way to remove the fog from your spirit. When you fast, you are telling your flesh to be silent so your spirit can rise. In times of urgency, fasting acts like a spiritual amplifier, making the voice of God more distinct. Jesus himself fasted before stepping into his public ministry, showing that clarity often comes when the body is humbled before God. Finally, be sensitive to the small stirrings. Sometimes the voice of God comes like thunder, but other times it is the gentle whisper Elijah heard on the mountain. Positioning yourself to hear clearly means being alert to both the dramatic and the subtle. When you are fully surrendered, even the faintest nudge from heaven will be enough to set you in motion. On the other side of obedience lies a door that only God can open. That door is not moved by talent, status, or connections. It swings open when you respond to his voice without delay. Every yes to God sends a signal into the spirit realm that you are ready to receive what heaven has been holding in reserve. And when that signal is sent, angels are dispatched, chains are broken, and barriers begin to fall. Obedience is the bridge between promise and possession. Many hear the promises of God, but never cross over because they hesitate at the edge of obedience. The Israelites stood on the border of the promised land, hearing about milk and honey, yet 40 years passed before they entered, because they would not step forward when God commanded. Your obedience tonight can cut short what would otherwise take years to accomplish. There are blessings that will not manifest until you act. The widow in Zarephath saw her jar of oil multiply only after she baked bread for the prophet. Naaman's leprosy left only after he dipped 7 times in the Jordan. These were not random miracles. They were breakthroughs tied directly to obedience. Heaven's abundance is often waiting just beyond the threshold of your immediate response. Obedience also triggers supernatural alignment. When you follow God's instruction, things begin to move in ways you could never arrange yourself. People you have never met start playing a role in your story. Resources you didn't know existed come into your hand, and situations begin to bend in your favor. This is because obedience plugs you directly into heaven's orchestration, where everything works together for your good. On the other side of obedience is protection. God's instructions are not just about advancement, they are also about safety. Noah's obedience built the ark before the first raindrop fell, preserving his family. Joseph's obedience to the angel's warning spared Jesus from Herod's sword. Sometimes the breakthrough is not in gaining something new, but in avoiding a disaster the enemy had planned for you. Obedience releases the joy of partnership with God. When you act on His word, you are no longer a spectator. You are a co-laborer in His plan. Peter knew the joy of seeing a miraculous catch of fish, but it came only after he threw the net where Jesus told him. The reward was not just in the abundance, but in knowing he had worked side by side with the Master. On the other side of obedience is transformation. God does not just change your circumstances, He changes you. Every time you obey, your faith grows stronger, your hearing becomes sharper, and your heart becomes more anchored in trust. The blessing is not just in what you receive, but in who you become through the process of saying yes to His voice. Chosen one, the hour is here, and the moment is burning with holy fire. Tomorrow is already at the door, but heaven's word has reached you tonight. The Spirit of the Lord has stepped into your space, cutting through the noise of the day, because there is something that cannot wait. You have been summoned not by man, but by the living God, whose voice shakes the heavens and the earth. His eyes are fixed on you, and His call has been ringing in the chambers of your heart since this word began to flow. You have heard the urgency. You have felt the weight. This is not just another message to be stored away in your memory. It is a command to be answered. Heaven is standing still, waiting for your response. Angels are ready to move at the sound of your obedience. The King is leaning forward, holding in His hand the very thing that can shift your life before the next sunrise. But it will not be placed in the hands of those who hesitate. It will only be given to those who move now. Look into the Spirit. There is a door, and it is open only for a moment. Beyond it lies the instruction, the blessing, the protection, and the assignment you have been praying for. That door is your passage into a different tomorrow, but it will not stay open forever. The Spirit says, this is your hour. Every second that passes without your yes is a second closer to that door closing. You cannot walk through it tomorrow. It was made to be stepped through tonight. There is a stirring deep inside you that you cannot ignore. It is not emotion, it is recognition. Your spirit knows the voice of the shepherd, and it knows that this moment is unlike any other. You have been in many seasons, but this one is different. This one carries the fragrance of destiny and the heat of divine urgency. If you walk away from this moment unchanged, it will not be because God did not speak. It will be because you refused to move when He called. Think of what lies on the other side of obedience. The walls that have stood against you for years could fall overnight. The chains that have bound your mind and heart could shatter before the morning. The answer you have cried for in secret could manifest openly for all to see. The very thing that has seemed impossible could bow at the feet of the one who makes all things possible, if you will obey now. But also think of the cost of hesitation. What battles will rise tomorrow because you refuse to prepare tonight? What blessings will be delayed because you stayed in the comfort of your own reasoning? What dangers will you face without the shield God was ready to place over you this very hour? The thought alone should drive you to action, because there is no safety in waiting when heaven says, move. Tonight the King's voice has gone out, and it has found you. You have been chosen in this hour, not because you were the most qualified, but because you were appointed. This summons carries your name. It has bypassed others to reach you, because God knows you are the one to carry what He is about to release. The weight of this moment is pressing on you because heaven has decided it is your time. There are no more words to soften the blow, only the raw truth. The moment is now. Heaven has spoken, the Spirit has stirred, the hourglass is running, and the sands are almost gone. Before the next sunrise, your obedience or your delay will decide the course of what comes next. God has said His part, the rest is in your hands.